Time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show, I want to talk about a long-standing issue in Magic the Gathering, and that is not so much just new players, but even some experienced players who use way too many spells in their constructed decks, thinking they can do a lot more with them than they can with creatures. And I'm going to show you why that is not good. Now, even after all the years I've been playing Magic and gone to the odd tournament, played with friends, etc., deck building sessions, I don't get people who time and again have put more spells in their constructed decks than necessary. I would say that in each of my 5 constructed decks, my spells and creatures have about the same amount of cards in the deck, and this, of course, is in addition to the 35% mana rule. Now, spells do a lot of great things. For example, you can regenerate a target creature. You gain 3 life and draw a card. Destroy target enchantment. Gain 5 life. Gain 1 life, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Destroy target artifact and gain life equal to the artifact's casting cost. And especially with colors like white, you don't see high cost to bring these cards out and do things. But that being said, your creatures are your first and main line of defense on the battlefield. If you are skimping on creatures and not getting them out, the cards that your opponent is playing, and not just his own creatures, but his instants and sorceries, he's dealing damage right to your life total. And by continuously just bringing out your own sorcery and instants, what you're doing is trying to plug the Titanic with a band-aid, so to speak. That's all you're going to end up doing. Creatures are the backbone, and your instants and your sorceries and your spells are supposed to be a complement to those. I don't understand why people still overload their decks with spells. If you don't have enough creatures in your deck, you can't possibly hope to win the game, let alone survive to the end of it. Again, this is in addition to the 35% mana rule, sometimes 40, sometimes 30. The deck has to be carefully balanced, and I'm sorry, as awesome as some spells are, especially the ones I've shown you here that come from my white deck, if you have too many spells and not enough creatures, you're going to have a bad day. So be mindful of this when you're building your next deck. Now, that all being said, if you already have decks constructed and you have them overloaded with spells, I'm not saying rip the deck apart and start from scratch. Keep a lot of your best spells in the deck, especially if you have quads. But if you have way more instants and spells and sorceries than creatures, get a few out of there. Level it off. Maybe even add a couple more creatures. Or, if you want to get crazy, add a couple more mana, or stock up on some artifacts in your deck, like enhancements. That's way better to go as a route than adding way too many spells. Have a great day, everybody.